Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Excuse me. Don't worry, it's not COVID. It's the flowers. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Swarupa Madhava ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Gauranga Ranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, Text number 45. Yena yavanyata dharmo veha samihita saeva tat palam bhungte tatata vadamutravai yena yavanyata dharmo veha samihita saeva tat phalam bhungte tatata vad amutravai. today's. Dharma. Word for translation. Yena, by which person? Yavan, to which extent? Yata, in which manner? Adharma, irreligious activities. Dharma, religious activities. Va, or. Iha, in this life. Samihita, performed. Saha, that person. Eva, indeed. Tat phalam, the particular result of that. Bhungte, enjoys or suffers. Tataha, in that way. Tavat, to that extent. Amutra, in the next life. Vai, indeed. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. In proportion to the extent of one's religious or irreligious activities in this life, one must enjoy or suffer the corresponding reactions of his karma in the next. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.18, Urvam gachanti satvastha maje tisthane rajasaha jaghanya gunavritista arogachanti tamasaha. Those who act in the mode of goodness are promoted to higher planetary systems to become demigods. Those who act in an ordinary way and do not commit excessively sinful acts remain within the middle planetary system, and those who perform abominable sinful actions must go down to hellish life. Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swami Prabhupada Darati Swaparantikam Panchakalpatrubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyavasa Bhaktanam Pavnibhyo Vaishnavabhyo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In proportion to the extent of one's religious or irreligious activities in this life, one must enjoy or suffer the corresponding reactions of his karma in the next. Ugh. Hardcore. As we know, Krishna is mentioned already in the Gita. Abrahma bhuvana loka punavartanarjuna mamupita tokunteya punajamana vidyate. That from the highest planet in this material world down to the lowest, all about places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. So, but however, when one comes in contact with the pure process of bhakti and attains the abode of the Lord, one doesn't have to come back and take birth again in any material sphere, even on Brahmaloka or Janaloka, Tapaloka, no one returns to that. So whether we are in the position of Lord Brahma, whether we have amassed great wealth or learning, so long as we're trapped in the material sphere, it means repeated birth and death, and it means we have to deal with the extra added costs of having a material body. You know, sometimes when you purchase a product, they don't tell you the full scope of what comes with that product, right? Yeah, you can purchase a car or a motorcycle. Yes, they have this gear, this CC power, etc. But they don't tell you, when it's slippery on the road or if it's exposed to rust, this is what's going to happen. if you go around a bend, it doesn't actually slow down well, or XYZ. So they will not give you the full spectrum of everything, right? And then you have to experience it for yourself. However, in the process of bhakti, in books like Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, it is laid out. There are no surprises of what we can expect, right? It's already telling us, look, wherever you take birth in this material world, you will experience misery because you will have to change bodies. And that is not a great experience. Whether you're in a place like Hawaii, or a beautiful island in Croatia, or Cayman Islands, Bora Bora, it's still a place of misery because there's still disease, old age, and death. What to speak of birth, right? Now we're all being afflicted by the pains of COVID and, Omicron? Whatever it's called. Omicron and Delta. And there'll be something next. So everywhere we go, we are going to be hit with one of the miseries of having taken birth in the material world. It's unavoidable. So Krishna lays it out in the Bhagavad Gita, in the pastimes, in the Bhagavatam, clearly letting us know, listen, this is what the material world is. These are the energies. Krishna has explained his Devi Shakti, right? His superior energy, his inferior energy, and what happens when we try to interact with them, when we try to lord it over, what happens to our consciousness, to our mind, what happens when we engage in trying to fulfill our material desires, which burn like fire, right? So Krishna's very open. He's explained what we can expect. There's no hidden scenarios that will catch us by surprise. So here it specifically mentions, to the extent of our religious or irreligious activities, we will enjoy or suffer the corresponding reactions of the karma that is being created. So whether it's good or bad karma, still you're stuck in the material sphere, and we're not trying to just gain access to the highest club in the material world, because there's still repeated birth and death, but we're still not fully connected with Krishna in our most natural setting. So breaking out of the cycle of birth and death is actually our secondary focus. Of course, primarily we want to reestablish our relationship with Krishna. So for devotees, whether that's in the material world or in the higher realms, establishing that connection, that bond with Krishna trumps everything else. And automatically, of course, we get the blessings, the mercy of going to the same planet as the Lord, being engaged in his pastimes, etc. So that is a devotee's or a bhakta's thinking. I want to reestablish my relationship with the Lord. So in this material world, when we hear the word religious, I know when you talk to a lot of people, it doesn't sit well with them. No one wants to be seen as religious, because religion has been deemed as something that is very controlling, manipulating, exploitative, and dangerous. Right? So many times they say there's so many wars fought on religious grounds, so many persecutions fought in the name of religion, so much abuse in the name of religion. And if they pick up the Bhagavad Gita, oh, it's on a battlefield, this is a holy book and people are dying and there's fighting and there's ghastly images, or the universal form is so scary, so people are thinking this religiousness itself is unattractive. Of course, what Krishna is proposing is not religion. That is our Sanatana Dharma. Our highest Dharma is to be connected with the Supreme Lord. So it's not actually sentimental belief that I can all day sentimentally believe about anything or anyone and make that my religion. I can believe that wearing a certain cologne or looking a certain way or worshipping a movie star or a cricket star or a Bollywood actor or actress, I can turn that into a belief system, into a religion, follow their footsteps. right? We follow in the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, of the Gopis of Vrindavan, of Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara, right? We follow their leadership, we follow their activities and try to serve them. Whereas in the material world, we follow the footsteps of the movie stars, of the sports stars, of the different types of artists. We put them on a pedestal, and that becomes our religion, so to speak. Anything that has any mention of the word God or servitude, keep that at bay. No one wants to hear about religion because there's a misunderstanding, right? This is what Krishna proposes in these texts is not religious belief, it's an actual everyday, every minute engagement of the senses. There's interaction with the Lord's devotees, with the holy name. So there's so much mercy coming in different ways. So when we act in this world, when we live in such a way that's been guided by the books of the Goswamis, Srila Prabhupada's purport, then we're actually in a safe path. We're trying to transgress we're trying to go beyond functioning under the modes of material nature, which bind us to this world and which creates more karma. So when we have karma, we're stuck in this material world. When we engage in the process of bhakti, which can liberate us from karmic activities and results, we can actually be elevated out of the material cosmos. So in the 9th chapter of the Gita, when Krishna is given his, confidential knowledge, he speaks to Arjuna about the destination of different people depending on their actions and who they worship or who they pray to. He specifically mentions if you worship the ghosts and the spirits, you will go to them. If you worship your ancestors, you will go to them. You worship the devatas, you will go to their planets. If you worship me, you will come to me. Which completely annihilates this idea, which most of us, myself included, back in the day, before understanding the principles of Krishna consciousness, all paths lead to the same goal. I'm sure some of you have heard this statement. Yeah, it's all one. It's the same thing. Whether you do it like this or like that, you come once a week, do this, or you offer something, or leave it there, or go on a Saturday or Sunday. Whatever path you're on, we're going to get there. Actually, no. If you buy a specific ticket to go somewhere, it takes you to a specific place. I cannot expect to end up in Dubai if I get a ticket to go to London Heathrow as my final destination. Right there, whatever set of principles we live by, or lifestyle we live by, or our mode of worshipping the Lord, or his energies, you go to a specific destination. That is Krishna vehemently stating. That is a fact. Right, in that same chapter, Krishna explains, if you offer me a leaf, a fruit, a flower, I will accept that servitude. Krishna in the 9th chapter is giving ways in which we can engage, right? It's the king of knowledge, the most secret of all secrets. That entire chapter encapsulates the process of bhakti. Particularly the latter texts, they speak or they glorify the process of bhakti as why that is supreme. How by worshipping the Lord, even just by offering obeisances, dedicating everything that you do, everything that you eat, all your activities, do that as an offering to the Lord. And those activities and their results, they get purified. So Krishna is very clear that our actions can liberate us in such a way that we break out of this cycle of repeated birth and death, and we do not have to accrue any more good or bad karma, because that is still, good karma is still binding to this material world. That is not the goal of the devotee. So the modes of goodness, passion, ignorance, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita, they do They bind us to this world, and they're always, competing, as Krishna says in the Gita. Sometimes the mode of goodness is more prominent in your life, sometimes passion, sometimes ignorance. So the advantage, of course, of the mode of goodness, Krishna explains how when one is in the mode of goodness, all gates of the body are illuminated with knowledge. So that means what you hear, what you see, what you speak, your senses are actually more open, alive, and alert. If we think of the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion is driven by unlimited desire, fruit of activity, hankering, longing, right? There's a lot of lamentation that will come with it anyway. So it makes us a little bit clouded in our judgment. We do not think clearly most of the time if we're functioning under the mode of passion. We are driven by an unlimited desire to acquire, to experience sensual gratification. Now, when your senses take over, when your intelligence is lacking, your senses take over, more often do we make the wrong choices or the least intelligent choices. So that is what happens when the different modes, whether it's the mode of passion, which creates fruit of activity, great attachment and longing, or the mode of ignorance, which dulls us. It dulls our activity from our eating habits to our sleeping habits. And it's not just 1 day, 2 day, becomes a permanent thing that we are in this slump of just lack of knowledge or inertia, lack of movement. There's no illumination of any sort, right? That energy really pulls you down. It's very, very difficult to come out of the mode of ignorance. There's no regulation, right? Anything comes, anything goes. So it becomes difficult to actually extricate yourself from the lowest mode. And that is why the lifestyle that is depicted or that is explained by Srila Prabhupada, rising early, keeping the body clean, eating a plant-based diet. We even go further, our food is offered to Krishna, it becomes prasadam, and that way it spiritualizes our body. So we're trying to elevate our consciousness. And when one is in the mode of goodness, as I mentioned, one sees things in the right position. One sees things clearer than one would be in the mode of ignorance, where you're just, that there's a whole lot of illusion there. There's a whole lot of madness. Or when you're functioning under attachment and fruit of activity, it's very, very difficult to actually see things clearly as they are. So in order to try to get rid of these different types of sufferings, right? The list is endless in the material world, whether it's Adi Atmika, Adi Devika, Adi Bhautika. Suffering is everywhere. We have to deal with our own stuff. And then there's so many other living entities around us. The elements, COVID, the flu, TB, malaria, whatever. There's diseases. There's so many things that get in the way of having a decent, you could say a decent life. But having a material body, it's not going to be decent because it is just rigged with issues. And that is why Prabhupada mentions in the purport of 1411, when every gate is illuminated by the symptoms of goodness, it should be understood that one has developed the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position, one can hear things in the right position, and one can taste things in the right position. One becomes cleansed inside and outside. In every gate, there is development of the symptoms of happiness, and that is the position of goodness. So, of course, this is not the ultimate state that we want to be in. We also want to go beyond that goodness into transcendence. So hence we apply the bhakti process, of hearing and chanting constantly the glories of the Lord, offering our foodstuffs to the Lord, adorning our body with markings of the Lord, and hearing about the Lord constantly. So this is what is going to purify our existence in the material world and get us out of this karmic situation, because it is that karmic situation that binds us to this world. You go up to the highest planets, you go down to the lowest planets, you'll have to work and accrue karma, and that keeps on with the cycle of repeated birth and death. So it may look nice sometimes when we hear about the different, the heavenly planets, how you live for longer, your body's so beautiful, it's so fragrant, you smell like a gazillion frangipanis, whatever, right? Strong bodies, beautiful bodies, long life, a lot of vigor. It all sounds good, but that is not the end goal, because even that has it will fade away. That it does explain in the heavenly planets, when your time is up, your garland shrivels up, the youthfulness shrivels up, and then down you go into the lower planetary systems. So it's not a permanent fix. The mode of goodness is not a permanent fix. The mode of passion, mode of ignorance, these are not permanent fixes to our problems. They permanently fix us in the material world, no doubt. They anchor us into the material world, but they cannot release us out of there. That can only be done by a spiritual process like bhakti. That can take us out of the material sphere. So when and if we act accordingly, following the directions given by the great sages, by Srila Prabhupada, the entire parampara, spiritual masters and teachers, then there is hope on our own to escape what happens in the material sphere. I mean, nothing really belongs to us, right? How can we can't control things that don't belong to us, right? Even this body's been given by material nature, right? The air that we breathe, all the elements, the water, everything has been designed so perfectly in this material world. Yes, it is Krishna's inferior energy for the living entities, and in this domain we can make spiritual progress as well. Krishna has come, performed his pastimes, left the pure devotees to write down literature and give us processes to attain him even while living on this earthly planet. We can still make rapid spiritual advancement, and we can use this short life to that advantage. We shouldn't lament, if only I could live for 100 years with a magnificent body, strength of 10,000 elephants, and etc. It sounds nice, but it's not really the best deal for us. If we follow the directives of the Gita, of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, we understand that it is not so much about the external, what we get from being in the mode of goodness, or what we get for living a religious life, whether we're following some karma kanda section, like Ajamil, of course, as we heard in the past few classes, Ajamil had a tinge of Vishnu Bhakti, and he was following some karma kanda processes as well. But the one thing that saved him ultimately, even after the sinful activities that he performed up to that, elderly age, was that he called out the name of Narayan sincerely. And the Lord's representatives were there. So some of us, if we think of where we were before accessing the process of bhakti, what to speak of Kamakanda, that's a regulation, you're following something. But I often think that yes, it's although it may be materialistic, or people, they'll worship devatas and bring bhoga and sing prayers on certain days, there's still some level of punya, there's still some level of piety with some persons. Whereas some of us, there's no regulation, no nothing. The senses were just running wild, no understanding. So some of us were actually worse off than Ajamil. worse off. No regulation, no understanding of sacrifice or worship of any lord of any kind. But somehow the other, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, even those persons who were unfit, unqualified to receive Krishna Prem, not even just Bhava, but Krishna Prem, in this Kali Yuga, the most fallen of ages, Lord Chaitanya made that accessible. So if we think about it in that way, it is such a powerful process. We may live 60 lives or 30 lives. However, we have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya that he has given a process that can give you Krishna Prem. Right, and that's been given to us by the 6 Goswamis, Srila Prabhupada, and all the books that they've left behind to help us understand how to make that connection. Because there's no other religious sentiment or beliefs may keep us still in this material world, but this process of bhakti, or trying to attain Krishna Prem by following the 9 processes of bhakti, that can take us out of this material situation for good. As Krishna states many times, that if we worship him, if we offer him with love and devotion, our activities, all our actions, we will not return to this material sphere. We should not have any fear about that. And we dedicate this one life to Krishna. I remember, I think lately I read on one of the calendars, Prabhupada was mentioning, just give this one life to Krishna. We've given so many lives to just forgetting Krishna and forgetting who we are. But if we can dedicate this one short life to Krishna, that is the greatest saving grace. So the verse that's been mentioned here, 14:18, I will just read that in the Gita. Those situated in the mode of greediness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish world. At the end, Prabhupada says there's an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. But one who does not take advantage of this opportunity will certainly continue in the lower modes. So even some of us who were steeped in Tamagun and Rajagun, barely any goodness, right? Just by honoring some prasad, hearing a Harinam, the chanting of the holy name, somehow or the other, because we are Satchidananda, we are eternally full of knowledge and bliss, and we are parts and parcels of the Lord. Something awoke, something was awakened when we were exposed to Krishna in one of these forms, and by gradually feeding ourselves with more Krishna and Krishna's mercy, our understanding and our proper vision was actually clearer. And that's how it is possible for persons like Jagai and Madais of this Kali Yuga to actually chant Hare Krishna and be blissful. Right? We read about Jagai and Madai in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? The activities that they performed as normal for Kali Yuga. Right? Back then it was, of course, extremely abominable because society was very different. The quality and the consciousness of people was very different. But in the ages that we're living in, that's just kind of normal behavior, right? So Prabhupada said it is possible for persons who are in the mode of passion, people who have unlimited desires, fruitive mentality, and in the mode of ignorance, who are driven by madness or illusion, great envy. It is possible for people with such qualities to be elevated to the level of, or to the mode of goodness by taking up Krishna consciousness. What that means is they change their eating habits, right? You start eating a certain way, and Prabhupada mentions that it transforms you from the inside out. When you change what you put into your body, there's obviously a change in lifestyle, a change in your person. So you change what you do with your eating habits, your sleeping habits, what you do with your senses. That actually illuminates the body with knowledge, and that's what the mode of goodness does. At least it takes you out of the lowest modes of operating. So just by coming in, rising early, coming to the temple, hearing the kirtan, seeing the form of the Lord, seeing the devotees, honoring prasadam, hearing about Krishna's pastimes, you do that, you gradually get yourself from the lowest mode and you rise at least to the mode of goodness. And the more we do that, of course, our consciousness gets more and more purified, our activities get more and more purified, and we try to act on a transcendental platform. So the process is that powerful that it can uplift us from the lowest modes of nature and at least situate us in the mode of goodness where we'll be able to hear and accept more. All right, I will stop there and I'll ask if there's any questions or comments.
It's regarding to, you mentioned that, like most of us, we heard that common statement that any religion goes to the same, have the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave the example of getting a ticket to a specific place. You go to that, you are not expected to go to somewhere else.
Yep.
My question is more regarding that. I've been told, also Prabhupada established, that all of us, eventually we will go back to Godhead. And can we consider that sometimes when we go to celestial planets or infernal or lower planetary systems, like being in transit, and eventually we will go back to Godhead, all of us?
Well, since time immemorial, this dance of being in the material, spiritual cosmos has been going on because we are, we're that marginal potency. We can either stick our hands in enjoying the material or spiritual energy. So we have that free will to choose. And as per the statement that, eventually we will all end up back home in Godhead with the Lord, that depends on the living entity as well. So we may begin our journey, it may take us countless births, we may start out in different places, we may be influenced by this in one life, then travel from there, become a yogi, become a bhakti yogi, like that. So it may take us a few lifetimes to get there, but that is as per the free will of the individual entity and their relationship with the Lord. So yes, as I mentioned, not all paths are going to take us to the same destination. There is one ultimate, the highest destination, and there is one way of getting there. Or there is a process to get there. I cannot use the same process to go to my ancestors or the spirits. It will not be the same as going back to Vaikuntha or Goloka. So there's different processes that will get you to different places. But as you go through your journey back to Krishna, you may start off somewhere. You may start off worshipping, let's say, maybe Ganesh in one life. And then you worship Hanuman, then you worship Lord Ram. Eventually you arrive at Krishna. So it may take a few lifetimes of jumping from here to there, guided by the super soul in the heart, guided by the Lord, because as we remember, whatever spiritual, whatever sukriti we have, it goes with us into the next life. So whatever spiritual benefit we perform in each life, that keeps on accruing. So we keep getting mercy. Eventually, by the Lord's grace, we will end up where our desires want us to end up. So we may worship Lord Shiva for a very long time. We may be Shiva Bhaktas, and by the mercy of Lord Shiva, we may start worshipping Lord Krishna at some point in a different lifetime. So it may take a while, but there's a process to go to the Lord, and when we follow that process, it will take us there. Hope that helps.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Actually, I heard one thing, but please correct me if I'm wrong, that Srila Prabhupada had said that like his disciples will go to the heavenly planets.
He said that who, what?
That his disciples will go to the heavenly planets, like I think for His Grace Jayananda Prabhu, he said that first, but then he said he went to Vaikuntha.
So Prabhupada has said that his disciples are going to the heavenly planets, and then later on someone said that they're actually going to Vaikuntha.
That happened with Jayananda Prabhu, he said.
Yep.
But I think Prabhupada said that most of his disciples will end up in the planet of the demigods.
So that's what I was thinking, because they were practicing bhakti yoga, right? So I don't know if you can throw some light on that.
Well, we may come across, like I said, it may take us a few lifetimes to actually get to Vaikuntha, Goloka. So if we're fortunate enough, we may end up in the heavenly planets. The Lord or his devotees may perform some pastimes there. Right? We may engage in service there and continue on our path back home. We may keep on going further to the planets of the Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, or come back to the earthly realm and continue hearing about Krishna. So we may be in this earthly planet, then go to the heavenly planet. It really depends on what we've been doing in this life, but it is possible that we may be here and then we go to the heavenly planets if we are desiring that. Right, it's what we desire. Prabhupada came to give us the highest, but in between there's a lot of stuff that happens, and to break out of this material sphere, we really have to be pure of heart and really want no one but Krishna to serve. So if there's still remnants of other things, we go to different places, but still, as I mentioned, our bhakti stays intact. Whatever we've done will still be there, so our next destination, we will continue, we will associate more with the Lord and his devotees. We will have the opportunities to do that until we finally get to that destination by the mercy of the Lord and his devotees.
Thank you very much.
So it's just a matter of what we desire. All right, thank you very much. Grantharaj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.